And quads and hamstrings, anything in that thigh and hip area are usually key areas to hit.
We show Dr. Long the video, which claims using a massage gun on your neck is very dangerous because there are so many small arteries there. And Dr. Long agrees.
Yeah, so the neck is always just a very sensitive area. It needs to be even treated by any practitioner with skill, mainly for the fact that the bones in the neck are very exposed. And even some of the vascular structures that she was talking about, like your jugular artery, some of these other things that supply blood to the brain.
The National Library of Medicine backs up this argument. In one of its studies, repetitive use of a handheld massage gun on a woman's neck led to a condition called VAD, a rare but serious condition that could cause a stroke. For people with neck pain, Dr. Long says there are better, safer alternatives.
Self-care options you can do are just some self-massage. You can use just fingers, pressure in the back of the neck, and just hit some basic range of motion.
But in the end, Dr. Long says having a little bit of neck pain outweighs the dangers of using a massage gun.
I'd rather walk around with some low-level neck pain all the time as opposed to using a massage gun on my neck.
So we can verify that yes, using a massage gun on your neck is potentially dangerous. The device is only intended for the bigger muscles in your body. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@wcnc.com. Coming up on 450 right now on this Tuesday, let's send it over to Larry Sprinkle with a look at your forecast. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. It's a clear sky morning. No issues out there. A little bit of a chill in the air. We take a 4-camera view uptown looking A-OK over towards Ballantyne. Way off the distance, you can see the city of Charlotte, Monroe, Union County is okay and very quiet there on the lake, obviously, this time of the morning. Traffic looking okay as well, Interstate 77. Here's the way it looks as far as our weather headlines for the day. Clear skies and chilly this morning, windy and cooler across the area this afternoon. And then a late week warm up. In fact, there may be one day this weekend where it could be close to 70 degrees for a high temperature. Today, look for sunny skies across the entire region. Noontime, you're out for lunch, going to be in the upper 40s. We'll hit about 54 for a high this afternoon. Now, the average high is 55, so we'll be at least close to that under those clear skies out there. As we scan the skies, no rain to talk about. As we look at the big view this morning, we do have some shower activity off the coastal sections of North and South Carolina, but unfortunately out west, more heavy rain for California today. Just has not let up out there. More flooding rains and high winds. But as you can see from the Carolinas all the way across into the midsection of the country, big expansive high pressure builds in, and that means high and dry, means no rain until maybe the weekend. But high pressure does mean those clear skies, and we'll say pretty comfortable as far as the temperatures go across the region. Future gas shower activity off the Carolina coastline today. Showers maybe over the upcoming week. I think a better chance of rain as we get into Sunday. A few showers on Saturday, but better coverage of the showers on Sunday, maybe even into Monday of next week. And then we get dry weather for the rest of next week. You can see a few showers out there. On Monday, as we check around the region today, high about 56 at Cheraw, South Carolina, close to 57 at Hickory, a little bit milder over there. Morgan and topside at 58 will be in the low to mid 50s here in the Charlotte metro area. As we check your Guy Roofing 7-day forecast, we'll say mid 50s today and tomorrow. We're near 60 on Thursday. Look at Friday. Sunshine at 62 degrees. There's that one day on Saturday. We actually may get to that 70-degree mark. Slight chance of showers. I think better coverage of rain on Sundays. We hit to the end of the weekend. 65 degrees on Sunday. We see a few showers to start next week with Monday's high right around 66 degrees. There's that average high of 55 this time of the year. That's a weather word. Let's get
At WCNC Charlotte, we really want to make a difference. We have tools like Verify and Where's the Money to really listen to viewers and see what they're struggling with, whether that's trying to get money that you deserve or answering a question that's confusing you. We're not the experts, we're interviewing the experts. And that's why we want to bring it to you so you can see the facts, how we check them, and how we get the answer.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hey, listen, we are a little more than a week out from Valentine's Day.
Can you believe it?
Oh no.
Whoa.
I didn't realize
Exactly.
Come on, Chris.
That's why I mentioned it. So make plans accordingly in the next week. And with that in mind, we want to know what are some of your best relationship advice, that sort of thing. Because the new study is debunking some popular myths out there about love.
So first of all, you know, everyone talks about your love language. What's your love language? Evidently, this study says there's no such thing as a love language. The study found of the 5 love languages, people just don't fall into one category. Haven't you read the book?
Okay,
The 5?
I was going to say, I take issue with this, but go ahead. I'll take issue with that.
Here, I'm trying to Google
I thought there were 7.
Larry's, or what the love languages are.
One's gifts, one's
gifts,
words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch.
Oh, Ben, you just know them all. Acts of service, gift giving.
Yeah.
That's all, right? So anyway, everybody's usually a little bit of everything.
I just speak French.
All right. Next up is the idea of happy wife, happy life.
Yep.
Yeah,
No shock there, but the research found overwhelming evidence that both spouses need to be happy for the relationship to succeed,
Good
obviously.
idea.
And so this morning we want to know, what is the key to a happy relationship? If you've been married for a while, hey, comment how long you've been married and what your advice is. Larry, let's start with you. You said happy wife, happy life, though. You did say happy wife, happy life this morning, though, which isn't always a bad thing.
I mean, that's the wife. I always talk to these people who've been married like 75 years.
Yeah.
And they ask the guy, he goes, I just do what she said.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's the answer.
Yeah. My grandmother.
If you do that on a regular basis,
yes,
then, you know,
it's
a lot better.
It's a lot better, right?
Yeah.
It's just easier.
Yeah.
It's harmonious.
Harmonious.
I would say talk to one another. A lot of times and this kind of goes with any friendship, relationship, that you can oftentimes just kind of hide the things that bother you about another person. And I'm not saying go out and say something super mean to them, but just being able to talk things out instead of holding everything inside, I think really makes a healthy relationship.
That's a good point. And the other thing, is my mic not on? It sounds like
It is.
I think it is.
It's been on, but it sounds like
Yeah.
I'm on. And that's something I'm talking to myself, is learn to listen.
Yeah.
You talk to listen. And remember what they say to you. And do what they say.
And like acknowledge it too.
Yes.
And not, sometimes you just need to acknowledge. You don't need to fix or address or
Problem solved.
you just need to
Men.
acknowledge. I know. No, it's I've had to learn that myself.
My grandma always said God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We need to listen twice as much as we talk. Melissa chiming in. Well, don't listen to me. Married for 5.5 years. 3rd marriage. Well, Melissa, those
Third
things
time's the
happen.
charm.
There you go.
There it is.
That is right.
Way to go.
3rd
That's
time's
it.
the charm.
Practice makes perfect.
I do remember talking to my grandmother. She was married 67 years.
Oh, wow.
And I had
To the same man.
To the same man.
Yeah,
Yep. And I had a friend that was going through a divorce, and they had told me something like, oh, they lost the butterflies or something. And my grandmother just like shook her head and was like, losing the butterflies, that's like
Butterflies ain't love.
yeah, you are committing to this relationship, and you're going to have ups and downs, and it's learning to love another person through those different phases of life. And you know, when you say your vows, you're committing to that. And so anyway, that was good advice for her, that when you get married, it's not going to be like the movies and butterflies, you know, for 67 years through kids and everything.
Yeah.
It's reality.
Yeah.
It's work is what it is.
Yes,
I think
it is
that's what
work.
people don't realize. As the unmarried one of the group.
But you had your parents, right?
Yeah, my parents are married.
4 kids?
Are married. 4 kids,
Yeah.
30 years.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
Exactly. I mean, to watch them, love is a verb. Love is a verb, and you have to get up and you have to show up every single day.
Yeah.
And I think people
It's a verb, a noun, an adjective, a pronoun.
all that.
Yeah.
Anything but a feeling. Love is certainly, if there's one thing I've learned from watching my parents, love is not a feeling. It's an active commitment.
Yeah,
and you have to show
totally.
up every day.
Yeah.
It is the most unselfish thing you'll ever do is get married.
I agree, because it's like a mirror, and like
Oh, yeah.
here is all your flaws.
learn
You have to, and that's going back to the happy wife, happy life thing. It's not one person or the other. It's meeting in the middle and compromising and learning to give of yourself to
Happy spouse,
to
happy
somebody
house.
Yeah.
I remember before you got married.
I'm just taking it all in because
I feel like before you got married, you were doing
we did couples counseling, yeah.
Couples counseling, which I feel like everyone should do because people come from different families and they have different expectations of what should happen or whose role is what. But I feel like when you're going through that, you're coming to work every day with like great advice.
Literally Brad first said like years ago, he's like, before we ever get married, we have to do premarital counseling. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then we go to get married, and he's like, okay, well, let's do the counseling. One of the best things we ever did. Yeah. I mean, so many nuggets. I have like an actual like note in my phone.
Good. I was going to say, I hope you didn't forget all those things.
All the nuggets.
Because I forgot what you told me.
They were, and honestly, they're not coming to my mind right now, except for like acknowledging people, their problem. Don't try to fix it necessarily.
Yeah.
I remember that. So many good nuggets. I think for me, it's just a very, take love out of the equation. It's a very practical view of it, as in, okay, this is their person. This is the person you chose, for better or worse.
That's in the vows.
You are tied to them in every way possible. It is in your best interest for them to succeed.
Yeah.
And for them to do well. And then for them to be happy. And for them to feel free expressing themselves.
Yeah.
That it will only sabotage you. Honestly, it will only sabotage you if that person is unhappy, or if that person feels unfulfilled, or if that person feels not heard to, or not listened to, or it's not a business dealing per se, but it kind of is.
No, it is.
Like,
partnership.
you have to make sure that other person is.
It's an ongoing project.
Yeah.
Yeah, always.
That never
It's a
ends.
building that's never completely built, but you keep adding to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a question though, for especially since JT is coming up on 1?
Well, he's 1.5 now,
1.5,
so he's coming up on 2.
Okay, coming up on
time
2.
flies. I get it. No, understandable.
But I mean, how do marriages change as soon as you introduce kids to the mix?
It's a huge boulder in the water.
Oh.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I can say that freely, is because you're pretty much taking all of your commitment to one another and focusing in on one. And what I thought was really interesting is about being a dad is that you do find yourself with that bond between the mother and the son or daughter, that you are kind of that third party there. But then that's your responsibility to kind of step up. And I think that it's one of those things that you have such a big change. Kim and I are now starting to become stronger again, just because we're trying to figure out ourselves. Because I'm different than I was 2 years ago since I became a dad. Because my priorities have changed, just my heart has changed. So I think that's also a thing in a relationship, is that you change as this evolves, that you kind of have to figure out the changes of yourself, changes of your spouse, and that's how you have the best
Maybe
relationship.
you have about 3 or 4 more kids. Not that I can
No,
say
not that. You bring those numbers way down.
It's just a question off of that, because I, as a person who doesn't have kids, and I don't plan to, I've seen my siblings and my in-laws and friends go through having kids, and from an admittedly naive point of view, and as a person who don't have kids, I sometimes objectively look at it and be like, hey, you guys are focused way too much on your kids and not on each other. And you're losing yourself, you're losing your marriage, like not necessarily getting divorced, but like you're forgetting. And then the reason I bring this up, there was an expert yesterday on the Today Show, and he was talking about making sure you're filling each other's glasses as a husband and wife, and then it will necessarily flow on down to the kids. And just again, as an observer, I've seen that before, and I'm like, hey, marriage, your marriage should be like number one, and then kids will necessarily be the benefactors of that.
Well, I think we've done stories too. You see this divorce rate of people who become empty nesters because they are pouring so much into the kids that's their life, and then when their kids leave, they're like,
who is this?
Yeah. Do I like this person still?
And it's such a shame to me, because I'm like, you guys got together because you loved each other, and you just lost each other along the way because you made the kids such a priority.
Yeah, it is important to try to do, even though I'm preaching to the choir, because we are so bad about doing date nights and stuff like that, and we go on vacations with the kids and family, and I know friends that once a year try to go off, together, and we don't do that, but I think it is important to try to keep that open communication, because kids do change every day.
I think you kind of forget almost like who you were before and what you had, just because it's such tunnel vision on that kid, and especially early on, it was like, I don't want to mess this up. So you're almost just two individuals doing this, but then as JT is just getting older, we're able to share the moments of laughing and doing more things together. But no, great advice. Like, like hopefully this Valentine's Day we'll be able to, Kim and I will be able to go out. It's just even something as simple as a couple of hours together.
Oh, totally.
On your
Yeah.
own.
Well, yeah,
I think it's very
Ben said
important.
he'd be glad to babysit.
Thank you so much.
Good. Can I bring my kids too?
Everybody can drop it off.
Thank you, Ben. What a nice guy. Look at that.
Uncle Ben.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. That's the end of our show.
By the way, I do want to say, I don't necessarily agree with the study about love languages. I do think people have different love languages.
Yes.
It's funny. I was going to say the same thing.
And I do think it's important to understand what your partner prefers.
Yes.
Like for me, I like physical touch. It doesn't have to be anything necessarily sexual. Just being able to
Hold
have the person
hands or
hold hands or
something.
touch or something, and quality time is important to me.
Yeah.
Where acts of service Brad really gets into. So
Yeah.
if I do a chore around the house, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, why? That's like who cares? But to him, that's like
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
huge profession of love. So I just
I
want to
agree.
say that.
Even when you do the quiz on the love language one,
Yeah.
it will say like you're 80% this.
Everybody's a
you're
little bit of
10%.
everything.
Yeah.
Everybody's a little thing.
I just
So-
took the quiz recently because Kim and I were
sure,
talking about this.
Well,
Mine's quality time, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, quality time. I absolutely love it.
What's Kim's?
Kim's is, what are they again? She has not.
You failed the test.
Okay, but in fact, she hasn't taken the full quiz like I did. She just kind of thought that maybe she was quality time, maybe gift giving, and all of 5 of them. Hell, okay, get me out of here. This is why we don't go past 10 minutes.
I love it. I love it. Happy Valentine's.
Yeah.
All right,
Kim.
folks. Simon, let us know any advice you have, and we'll see you
We
back
need
here
it,
tomorrow.
obviously.
Bye, guys.
Time now to connect the dots. When we make the news, make 6. Your new car may no longer include a popular staple from the past, and it's all thanks to Bluetooth and streaming services.
More car makers are looking to get rid of AM radios, but Congress says not so fast. Let's connect the dots. In the last 7 years, AM listeners have dropped by over 100 million people. That's according to Nielsen data. Tesla, Volvo, and BMW have all stopped putting the radio in some models. But lawmakers say not having an AM radio poses safety concerns. AM radio is a critical way of communication for emergency messages, like Amber Alerts and weather alerts. It isn't law to require these radios. However, a new bill will require manufacturers to provide a safety warning when selling a car without them. And that is connecting the dots.
Just a few weeks until early voting in the primary, but do you know where your polling place is? One viewer was concerned after seeing a post on social media and sent us an email asking if her polling place would be the same as last year. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies.
Viewer Janice sent us this post. It says in spring 2024, Eco Chic, a women and teens consignment sale, will be opening at the former Kohl's department store on North Tryon Street. This building has been a polling place for years in Mecklenburg County. So Janice wanted to know if she can still early vote at that location. Let's verify. Our source is Michael Dickerson, Director of Elections for Mecklenburg County and the North Carolina Board of Elections. Right away, Dickerson tells us the building will still host balloting for the primary election.
We do plan on having that as an early voting site for this March general election. Early voting will start, as a matter of fact, the 15th of February.
It turns out Eco Chic is a pop-up store which will be operating from March 19th through the 24th after voting is complete. Dickerson tells us these polling places do sometimes change, but if that happens, the voters in that precinct will be notified.
On election day itself, I am required to notify the voters of that precinct that their polling location has changed. I actually send the voters of that precinct a letter.
He tells us it is usually the privately owned locations that change the most.
If I'm going to a private location, I cannot demand it. The public facilities I can demand, and that's what we always do, unless there's a a problem.
So we can verify that, yes, the old Kohl's location on North Tryon Street will be a polling place this year for the primaries.
If you want to see where your polling place is, we have a link on our website at WCNC.com. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
If you have something you would like verified, just email us at verify@WCNC.com.
With your help, WCNC Charlotte is making a difference in our community.
Beautiful day, so many people helping. This is incredible.
Let's spread that love tonight.
Here is a $5,000 check that you guys can use to further the mission.
There is nothing on earth like the feeling of giving back with your hands.
$5,000 to you and Block Love Charlotte for what you guys do.
If you'd like to make a difference, go to WCNC.com/make a difference now.
Taking a look at money and wealth across the Carolinas. Good Wednesday morning. Wallet Hub ranked each state in the U.S. by who has the biggest gaps in wealth by race. Now, before diving into the numbers, let's start with this. Researchers fronted this article by explaining what these disparities mean. They measured inequality by looking at the median household incomes of different ethnic groups. Now, that data shows non-Hispanic white Americans have a median household wealth of nearly $190,000. Hispanic households are bringing in a median of $32,000 and black households only $14,000. When taking that information and organizing it into this ranked list, the closer a state is to the top means that they have the biggest wealth disparities, which means the states with the smallest rates of inequality are going to be closer to the bottom, near 50. So here's the big reveal. North Carolina is ranked number 18, and South Carolina holds its place at number 35. And as for how these disparities happen, researchers cited several causes. They include unequal access to education, unemployment rates among people of color, and residential segregation like redlining that still has an impact on all of us today.
Moving to this, a North Carolina nonprofit seeking solutions for people who just cannot afford legal services. Legal Aid of North Carolina gets hundreds of thousands of calls a year for help.
Now it is turning to artificial intelligence to try to help them answer some of those calls. WCNC Charlotte's Julia Kaufman shows us how they're using the latest tech to help get people justice.
Legal Aid of North Carolina says it gets more than 400,000 calls a year and can only get to about a quarter of those pleas for help. It's now implementing artificial intelligence and mobile units to reach more people.
Even though we are able to do so much terrific work in the community, we're still not able to meet all of the need.
The nonprofit offers free help to low-income individuals facing issues like evictions and suspended licenses. It's meeting with dozens of other legal aid groups in Uptown this week, sharing how technology is making services more accessible. CEO Ashley Campbell says an automated tool for expunction petitions is helping more people clear their records.
And expunction really changes lives. We recently represented a client who was making $10 an hour, and after he got his expunction, he immediately got a better job paying $20 an hour.
Chief Innovation Officer Cherie Gilchrist says they'll soon use AI to tackle their high volume of calls.
There are tools out there, AI-enabled tools that can allow us to pre-screen and identify why the person is calling, what their legal need is, and then direct them to the right source of help.
Gilchrist notes that with great technology comes great responsibility.
As we're building it out, we're ensuring that we're paying attention to things such as bias and discrimination.
President of the Legal Services Corporation, Ron Flagg, says AI is also being used to break down language barriers and to provide self-help tools online for filling out court documents.
That's something that happens today, but not as much or as well as it should, and we're working on those sorts of document assembly tools to help justice in America be more accessible.
Legal Aid of North Carolina plans to launch that mobile unit this March in eastern North Carolina and then plans to expand it statewide. In Uptown, Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
Verify, WCNC Charlotte.
Verify is all about trying to make a difference in the community by making sure that the community has the correct information. This is what we know, and hey, this is what we don't know. Sometimes you're actually surprised by the answer.
Verify the difference.
Verify is a great way to combat that misinformation, making sure that people know the process of the reporting.
Heard of it. Well, the first week of tax season wrapping up, many choosing to get ahead of them now. Officials say the return people are expecting this year could be less or even could owe, as has them asking, where's the money? WCNC Charlotte's Anna King joins us in the studio now after speaking with tax officials to help you get ahead. Anna, what did they tell you?
Well, I spoke with them about why the returns could look different and if there's anything people could do to ensure some type of relief.
This is my first time that I ever been taxed that high.
Tax season could either be the best time of the year.
We've actually never owed money. We've always gotten obviously each year it varies, but I would say we've never owed anything. We've had 3 kids in 6 years.
Or the worst, depending on how your year looked. But some people who owed this year with no change to their 2023 say they're confused.
I mean, it was at least $2,000. My tax was $3,000. And hey, I don't make that kind of money.
Parents I spoke with say they are seeing numbers they've never seen before. Tax officials say changes to the child tax credit could be a reason for that.
In 2021, the standard child tax credit just for the 1 year went to $3,000. 22 and onwards, it went back to $2,000. So people starting even last year filing, or 22 filing, they lost $1,000 tax credit right there.
He says in addition to that, now apps like Cash App and Venmo are requiring you to file for some in-app transactions. And sometimes those that aren't business related could fall into the pile depending on the size of the transaction. He also says incorrectly filing your W-4 is a mistake some people make and could also be the reason you're left with a big cost in the end.
Now, he also told me there are ways you could avoid some of this unnecessary cost when it comes to filing your taxes. So coming up at 5, I will break that down for you. This is all just so confusing.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the show started. I still got to file my taxes.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
All right, thanks, Anna.
This is a huge burden.
Police departments across North Carolina are quietly making money off of people's mistakes, relying on a little-known tax that pays off for them and punishes people found with drugs even when there's no criminal conviction.
Now you're being punished twice.
In recent months, our Forfeited series has exposed local departments' reliance on a federal loophole that lets police seize people's cash and keep most of it without requiring criminal charges. Thanks to your tips, we've since learned of a state law that takes things even further, a drug tax that forces people to shoulder debt, sometimes for decades.
In return, police get to cash in, and Nate Morabito discovered they're making millions every year. He's asking, where's the money?
Just weeks shy of his 50th birthday, Antonio Mosley is moving forward.
I'm blessed.
But as hard as the small business owner works to put his past in the rear view,
say you're trying to save your money up,
he just can't shed the heavy load he's hauling.
You gotta realize it's 1993.
All tied to some wrong turns
They found some cocaine.
he made as a teenager.
Yes, I own that. Did my time for it.
Following guilty pleas for drug crimes and an assault with a deadly weapon charge, Mosley went to the penitentiary. Over the next 2 decades, he'd spend 17 years in all behind bars.
Losing your loved ones, your kids growing up without you, that's the hardest.
Yet today, he's still serving a civil sentence.
Now you're being punished twice.
The North Carolina Department of Revenue taxed him for the drugs police found on him all those years ago, charging $18,000 in taxes, penalties, and interest. And he still owes most of that money today.
I don't think it's fair.
The little-known North Carolina law that allows this went into effect in the late 1980s during the war on drugs, requiring people who possess drugs to pay taxes through the purchase of special tax stamps. The state isn't allowed to alert police if someone buys stamps, but as you'd imagine, hardly anyone does. So North Carolina levies taxes on the back end.
Public records show the state's collected more than $100 million in unauthorized substance taxes since 2010. Some of that goes to the state's general fund, But the police departments that found the drugs get to keep most of the money and then use it how they see fit.
It does benefit our programs for drug enforcement and all other areas of law enforcement as well.
This is a huge burden.
Kenny Robinson doesn't see any benefit.
This is very, very common, specifically in black neighborhoods that were over-policed.
Not only does he run Freedom Fighting Missionaries, an organization that helps house and support the formerly incarcerated.
I was pulled over and had marijuana and some cocaine on me, and I was charged for it. Eventually, it was dismissed.
He's also paid the price himself.
It was about $200 worth of drugs that ended up being about $1,700 worth of taxes that they levied out of my income from my employer.
Robinson says the state blindsided him with the tax 15 years later, garnishing his wages after his release from prison on an unrelated case.
It's just another one of the things that we have to go through trying to better yourself.
That's part of the reason why the North Carolina Justice Center wants the state to follow the lead of others and abolish the tax altogether. The organization, which advocates for economic and social justice, believes North Carolina should also forgive all drug tax debt.
When you come home, if you had kids before, you got back child support, now you got drug taxes. It can be kind of hard on a person coming back trying to be entering society. That's me.
In the years since he walked out of prison, Antonio Mosley's overcome a lot.
Believe it or not, I wanted to be a dentist.
The boy with big dreams has grown into a man who's grateful to be alive.
I wake up every morning thanking God.
With the help of his family, he's gone from sleeping in a car homeless to sitting in the cab of a truck, running his own business.
They'd rather working in the soup kitchen in prison.
Trying to make the most of his second chance.
Then it comes back to haunt you.
He says the government's garnished some of his wages, but as it stands, the mistakes Mosley made when he had hardly any miles on his tires continue costing him.
Everybody's had a little empathy.
A roadblock, keeping him from moving on down the road. Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Now, Nate and our Where's the Money team, they work really hard to dig into the data, trace the dollars, and really break down the issue so we can really understand the system. Right now on our website and inside our mobile app, you can see just how much unauthorized substance tax North Carolina has collected over the past 5 years. And we do want to point this out too. What started Nate's Forfeited series was an email from a viewer.
Yeah, since then, other people have actually come to us with similar stories, pushing us to ask for more answers and actually helping us learn about these policies that we didn't even know about. All of this is to say we can't do our job without you. It takes you to tell us about some of the things that are ongoing. So if you have something our team should be investigating,
They owe it to the American people to show some spine and do what they know to be right. So I want to tell the American people what's in this bill and why everyone, from the Wall Street Journal to the Border Patrol to the Chamber of Commerce, the United States Chamber of Commerce, support this bill. Because it's going to make the country safer, make the border more secure, treat people more humanely and fairly, and make legal immigration more efficient and consistent with the values of our nation and our international treaty obligations. It would finally provide the funding that I've repeatedly requested, most recently in October, to actually secure the border. That includes an additional 1,500 border agents and officers to secure the border, to physically secure it. In addition, 100 cutting-edge machines to detect and stop fentanyl at the southwest border. We have that capacity.
An additional 100 additional immigration judges to help reduce the year-long asylum backlog. You show up for asylum, and the judge is supposed to talk to you. It takes a year to get that discussion going. This bill would also establish new, efficient, and fair process for the government to consider an asylum claim for those arriving at the border. Today, the process can take 5 to 7 years, as you all know. They show up at the border, get a bracelet, told to come back when called, 5 to 7 years from now, in country. That's too long, and it's not rational. With the new policies in this bill and the additional of 4,300 more asylum officers who spend hours, I might add, with each immigrant to consider their claims, whether they qualify, we'll be able to reduce that process to 6 months, not 5 to 7 years. This bipartisan bill will also expedite work permits so those who are here and who qualify can begin work more quickly. That's something that our governors, our mayors, and our business leaders have been asking me for and asking them for. All across the country, they've been asking for this. It'll also create more opportunities for families to come together for business, to hire additional workers. And for the first time in 30 years, this bipartisan legislation increases the number of immigrant visas for people legally able to come to this country through ports of entry. And it ensures that for the first time that vulnerable, unaccompanied young children have legal representation at the border. This bill would also give me, as president, the emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when it becomes overwhelmed. The numbers are talking over 5,000 people trying to get in one day. The bill, if the bill were law today, it would qualify to be shut down right now while we repair it. Bottom line is, this bipartisan bill is a win for America because it makes important fixes to our broken immigration system. And it's the toughest, fairest law that's ever been proposed relative to the border. Now, it doesn't address everything that I wanted. For example, we still need a path of documentation for those who are already here. And we're not walking away from true immigration reform, including permanent protections and a pathway to citizenship for young dreamers who came here when they were children and who have been good citizens and contribute so much to our country. But the reforms in this bill are essential for making our border more orderly, more humane, and more secure. That's why the Border Patrol Union, which, by the way, endorsed Donald Trump in the 2020 election, endorses this bill. These are the people whose job it is to secure the border every single solitary day. They don't just show up for photo ops like some members of Congress. They're there to do their job. This is the risk, the thing many of them risk their lives doing every single day. And they decided, the Border Patrol decided, this gives them the tools they need to do the job. More personnel across the board. It's also why the U.S. Chamber of Commerce endorsed this bill, because they know this bill is not just good for the border, it's also good for American business and for the American economy. And it's why the Wall Street Journal endorsed the bill, with the headline this morning which reads, quote, "A border security bill worth passing. The Senate has reforms Trump never came close to getting." That's the quote from the Journal. This bill would also address two other important priorities. First, it provides urgent funding for Ukraine. I'm wearing my Ukraine tie, my Ukraine pin, which I've been wearing because they're in dire straits right now, defending themselves against a Russian onslaught. Brutal conquest. The clock is ticking. Every week, every month that passes without new aid to Ukraine means fewer artillery shells, fewer air defense systems, fewer tools for Ukraine to defend itself against this Russian onslaught. Just what Putin wants. Ukrainians are fighting bravely. You know, many of you look around the room here have followed me in this for a long time. I pulled together a coalition of over 50 nations to support them. On the phone, talking to these leaders. We unified NATO. Remember when we first came to office? NATO was they're all together and actually increased the size of NATO. We can't walk away now. That's what Putin's betting on. Supporting this bill is standing up to Putin. Opposing this bill is playing into his hands. As I've said before, The stakes on this fight extend well beyond Ukraine. If we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself to just Ukraine. And the cost for America and our allies and partners will rise. For those Republicans in Congress who think they can oppose funding for Ukraine and not be held accountable, history is watching. History is watching. The failure to support Ukraine at this critical moment will never be forgotten. The position of the MAGA Republicans can be characterized by the New York Times headline. First, this is the headline. It reads, Trump first, Putin second, America third. That cannot pertain. This bipartisan agreement also provides Israel with what it needs to protect its people and defend itself against Hamas terrorists. And it will provide the necessary life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinian people. By opposing this bill, they're denying aid to the people who are really suffering and desperately need help. You know, there's more work to get this done over the finish line, and I want to be clear. Doing nothing is not an option. Republicans have to decide. For years, they said they want to secure the border. Now they have the strongest border bill this country has ever seen. We're seeing statements about how many oppose the bill now. Look, I understand the former president is desperately trying to stop this bill because he's not interested in solving the border problem. He wants a political issue to run against me. They've all but said that across the board. No one really denies that I'm aware of. The American people want a solution that puts an end to the empty political rhetoric which has failed to do anything for so long. We have to get the resources to the border to get the job done. So Republicans have to decide, who do they serve? Donald Trump or the American people? Are they here to solve problems or just weaponize those problems for political purposes? I know my answer. I serve the American people. I'm here to solve problems. Just months ago, that Republicans were asking for this exact bill to deal with the border, to provide support for Ukraine and Israel. And now it's here. And they're saying, never mind, never mind. Folks, we've got to move past this toxic politics. It's time to stop playing games with the world waiting and watching. And by the way, the world is waiting, the world is watching. They are waiting and watching what we're going to do. We can't continue to let petty partisan politics get in the way of our responsibility. We're a great nation. It's not acting like a great nation. So I'm calling on Congress to pass this bill, get it to my desk immediately. But if the bill fails, I want to be absolutely clear about something. The American people are going to know why it failed. I'll be taking this issue to the country. And the voters are going to know that it's not just a moment, just at the moment, we're going to secure the border and fund these other programs. Trump and the MAGA Republicans said no because they're afraid of Donald Trump. Afraid of Donald Trump. Every day between now and November, the American people are going to know that the only reason the border is not secure is Donald Trump and his MAGA Republican friends. It's time for Republicans in the Congress to show a little courage, to show a little spine, to make it clear to the American people that you work for them, not for anyone else. I know who I work for. I work for the American people. I'm almost like this. We have to remember who in God's name we are. We're the United States of America. You've heard me say it many times. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. We're right on the verge of doing it together. I hope and pray they find reason to reconsider blowing this up. May God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Folks, you're going to ask me questions. Hang on a second. I'm going to be back on Thursday. I don't want to prejudice what may be going on in negotiations now. So I'm not going to be answering any questions of this. I'll be back Thursday to stand here with you and answer all the questions you want about this issue. Thank you.
What needs to get done for the hostage deal to get resolved, sir?
This indirectly has a lot to do with the hostage deal and what's going on in the Middle East. The decision on what we do relative to Israel, the decision what we do in terms of American funding, of whether we're going to engage with the situation in Ukraine. It all goes to the question of American power. It all goes to, does America keep its word? Does America move forward? There is some movement, and I don't want to maybe choose my words. There's some movement. There's been a response from there's been a response from the opposition, but yes, I'm sorry, from Hamas, but it seems to be a little over the top. We're not sure where it is. There's a continuing negotiation right now.
Mr. President, if this bill fails, would you consider supporting something separate that just addresses Israel or Ukraine?
I'm not going to concede that now. We need it all. The rest of the world's looking at us, and they really are.
Mr. President, trust this Congress?
does not have immunity, Mr. President. Your reaction to that ruling?